Welcome to the Mindfulness and Meditation Summit, a free online event where you'll receive heartfelt guidance from leaders in the mindfulness field to help you fortify and balance mind, body, and spirit. Share this powerful event with your friends and family, and come join us on Facebook at the Shift Network.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to introduce our special guest today, Caroline Shola Arewa. Shola is a leading figure in the worlds of spirituality and wellness. She's delivered her award-winning energy work internationally for over 30 years and is the author of 5 books, including the bestsellers Opening to Spirit and Energy for Life. Shola is the founder of Enlightened Entrepreneurs. Today, Shola trains and mentors wellness professionals worldwide. Shola, it is an honor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's really wonderful to be here.
Now, let's jump right in. Why is meditation so important?
Wow. So many different reasons. So many reasons why meditation is important. I think about it in terms of so many physiological benefits, psychological benefits, and spiritual. But ultimately, it's really about taking a moment for self, being present with that kind of self with a capital S, and just really coming back home into a moment of stillness and just allowing what kind of arises to come through. And so I find when we take that time, magic happens. Just really being in that meditative space allows things to change on every level.
And, speaking to that change, I know that you've had a really extraordinary path with your own journey. So can you talk a little bit about your life and how it is that you arrived at the space that you're in now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I often think about my own journey as kind of starting from the periphery and moving in to that center place. So I was a fashion designer in a past life. And at some point when I was working in fashion, I was a designer and I had my own kind of shop and was retailing and wholesaling and, doing the whole thing. And it was exciting for X amount of years. But then I reached a point where I just felt there must be more to life. There must be something more. And although that had been really kind of exciting for me, I just let it all go. And in releasing and letting it all go, I decided to travel. And I went away. I told people I was going for 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years. Now, as it happened, I came back 2.5 years later. Now, during that time, it was as if I was introduced to myself for the first time. So, for example, I was in Rishikesh, up in the Himalayas, actually just the foothills of the Himalayas. And I was staying up at the back in the kind of small kind of mountain place. And I came down one day and I walked through an ashram. And as I was walking through, I just heard all of this chanting, really beautiful chanting. And so I decided to sit and I just sat down at the back. And as I was hearing this, I just started to cry. I just had kind of just all of these tears, and I didn't really know what was happening, but something just kind of moved right through me. And in that moment, I kind of realized that whatever it was that these women who were chanting, whatever it was that they had access to, whatever it was that was kind of moving through them, was something that I didn't have, something that I didn't know, something that I hadn't really experienced before. And I think in that moment, I kind of found that something more that I had been looking for. And that really set me on a path of working with energy, working with the physical body, working with kind of asana and yoga and meditation and all of those things. It was a complete transformation for me in those years. And I give thanks. I really give thanks because I've never looked back. I've never looked back. And for me, transformation actually means that it's like a 360-degree shift where it's not possible to go back. So I give thanks for that in my own life.
You know, and speaking to that complete transformation that you're talking about, we're really in a moment in which globally we're transforming at a very fast pace. Our lives now are very different than they were even a matter of months ago. And how has that been impacting your practice and also the practices of the clients that you work with?
Yeah, it's been kind of interesting because what I've found for myself personally is particularly in the first week when all of this started to happen, I kind of felt like I didn't know myself. I didn't recognize myself. It's really, really kind of strange. I felt like there was an underlying turbulence. It's kind of up and down. So anytime that I felt I was lifting myself back up to a place that I'm kind of used to, that something would happen. Maybe I would hear the news or find out something that had happened, and I would kind of see myself falling again. So I was very much kind of up and down in that first week, and I didn't feel like I was able to really show up in the way that I wanted to. And kind of once I managed to come back to a place of center within myself and get back on my yoga mat and kind of do the things that really helped me, I realized that what was really happening was the root chakra was being kind of destabilized. So root chakra, it's about kind of having a roof over your head, money in your pocket, food on your table. It's about kind of routine. It's about stability. It's about physical health. And all of these things in that moment were becoming very, very uncertain. So I think once I understood that, I was able to work with my community and work with my clients at kind of returning some energy and grounding to the root chakra. So that from that place, from that kind of stronger foundation, we could start to lift up again and start to kind of come back again. But it's been very turbulent. I like the word turbulent because it's kind of a soft, but you know, anything can happen.
I definitely resonate with what you're talking about. And it is really fascinating as a meditation practitioner, to which so much meditation has to do with the transcendental, about sort of rising up and out of the lived experience, to encounter something that so clearly illuminates the root chakra and the sort of imbalances that can occur in our culture with it. How have you managed to strike that balance between the transcendental and the grounded?
Yeah, well, I kind of probably have a slightly different take on this to many people, because I always think about the importance of embodiment and being in a physical body. So I say that, you know, we can't kind of become enlightened or get out of your body until you're in it. So that kind of movement towards the root chakra is always important in the work that I do. I talk about from embodiment to enlightenment. And so in Opening to Spirit as well, I talk about how the crown chakra and the root chakra, there's something the same about them. You know, one is Shiva, if you like, the other is Shakti. So the root chakra is the goddess. And we need to kind of revere the goddess. We need our energy grounded. We need to take care of the earth. And I think lots of people right now have literally been coming back to the earth and starting to grow things, starting to, you know, get their gardens together. I've wanted to be in the park so much more and do my spiritual practice in the park. So I think all of this is an attempt to really ground our energy and to stabilize the root chakra again.
It's really a beautiful illustration of what you call in your work sometimes moving from meditation into manifestation. Can you talk a little bit more about that process and how you see it playing out nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. Thank you. It's that kind of balance, really, between the crown chakra and the root chakra. So meditation to manifestation is kind of the opposite way around to what I was just talking about. So also, when we want to bring things into being, when we want to create things, when we want to kind of unfold or manifest, then entering that place of stillness, that kind of meditative space, also supports the process of manifestation and creation and bringing into being. And why I find it so kind of important myself is because it creates ease. It creates ease. It makes things easy. And I think of ease anyway as energy, awareness, success, and excellence. That's ease. So meditation to manifestation means that we work kind of hand in hand with the Creator. So rather than pushing, rather than trying, rather than thinking all the time and trying to do things from here, we can just take a moment just to be, to become still, to become quiet. And as we do that, we allow the magic, we allow something else. I call it the ongoing evolutionary process to kind of come into our awareness and to be alive within us. And it just supports manifesting, it supports bringing into being with ease. And it's also about not being attached to what that will be as well. So we're co-creating. So we may have some ideas and some intentions and things that we want to create. But when we go into that stillness, we go into that silence, something greater can evolve, something greater can unfold. That's what I'm calling magic.
I mean, we are living in quite the magical time in that framework for sure. So I'm curious what you see as the relationship between that stillness and that evolution that arises out of that stillness and the idea of purpose and what it means to live a purpose-driven life.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think what's happening now as well that is very in alignment with the spiritual journey is we've been asked in some way to surrender and to let go and to allow. And on the spiritual journey, many people will know that at some point there came a place where they just had to let go. I call it offering it up, knowing that there is something, an energy, a life force, something greater than us that is also at work for us, with us, and through us. And so it's really our ability to tap into that energy, to listen, to pick up what we're hearing that supports us to be on purpose in our lives. So rather than it being Shola kind of running the show, and trust me, as Aries and fire energy, Shola loves trying to run the show. But sometimes we need to just come back. And in that coming back, and in that expanding and opening, we allow something greater to really support us. And when we do that in all areas of life, When we can do that in all areas of our lives, for me, that's been purpose driven. So it's like having the creator on your board of directors. It's like taking your kind of direction directly from the creator. For me, that's purpose. And I believe we each have one. I often speak of a kind of jigsaw puzzle. And people may even be getting out their jigsaws right about this time, actually. But if you take a kind of huge jigsaw and you're putting all those tiny pieces together, imagine if there's just one piece that is missing, just one piece missing. Now, if that one piece is missing, you can't really just try to get another one to fit. I mean, we've all tried that. It doesn't work because each piece is totally unique. So that's like you. You are totally unique, totally unique. And so being on purpose is really resonating fully in that uniqueness. Now, if that one piece of jigsaw puzzle is missing and not on purpose, not doing what it needs to do, then it pretty much renders the whole of that jigsaw not kind of useless, but it's not so good, is it, with just one piece missing? That's how important it is to be moving towards greater purpose in our lives and kind of, living on purpose as much as we can. That's how important you, me, each of us, that's how important we are.
That is beautiful, Shola. Now, for folks who maybe are feeling out of touch with that purpose or out of sorts in this, what could you lead us in a practice to help us connect back into that?
Yeah, I'd love to. I have a really simple kind of practice that I use myself to kind of bring me back into center, and also just to be really gentle and loving with ourselves. So the practice is called Energy for Life Balance. And what happens is you take your right hand and you just bring it onto your heart center. And you take your left hand and you bring it over your sacral chakra. And then just gently close your eyes and just have an awareness of what is changing. Your right hand is over the cardiac plexus. So it's acting as a very gentle tranquilizer on your system. And it's also over the thymus gland, so giving a boost to your immune system. But most of all, you're sending life-giving, loving energy from your heart, and compassion and love from your heart to yourself. So your right hand pushes energy and your left hand receives that energy in the sacral chakra. In the sacral chakra, we know it as the sacred home of I. Just taking a deep breath of awareness. When you're ready, just releasing your hands. Just opening your eyes when you're ready. Energy for life, balance.
That was a beautiful gift, Shola. Thank you so much.
Mm.
I'm curious about a particular thing you said in that meditation, which was about having a loving engagement with yourself.
Mm.
It seems like meditation and sort of self-improvement more broadly can sometimes be a sort of subtle violence that we perpetrate against ourselves. Can you talk a little bit about the role of self-love and self-acceptance in this path of awakening?
Yeah, and I really kind of hear what you're saying, because sometimes, we can be very hard on ourselves in terms of our practice, spiritual practice. And for many years, I kind of think of it as a discipline, a practice that, we show up for, and it kind of hones us. But I think as well as that, because I think that's true, but I think as well as that, I like a teaching by Reverend Michael Beckwith, who talks about discipline and Ananda. And I just think that is so beautiful. So it's still kind of discipline, but it's really within it, we're seeing why we're doing that. A discipline. And I think that is already more gentle and more loving. And I think when we are more gentle and loving and nurturing with ourselves, it's a little bit like children. We'll get more from ourselves, the more kind of accepting we are. And so I've certainly learned over the years, and I could probably still do more work on it, but I have learned over the years to be more accepting with myself as my practice changes. I used to have a very, let's say, disciplined practice of asana practice of, an hour and a half every day, very early in the morning. People who work with me, who did work with me 20 some years ago, they would know when they work with me now, they're kind of like, they can't believe it, because it's so much more kind of gentle. And I think that, we need to flow with our practice. Those times of being kind of quite disciplined and knowing that we're going to show up on the mat or in our meditation, and, we have a set time that we're going to stick to. I think there's power in that. But I also think there's power in 2 minutes. 2 minutes of just nurturing, coming back into silence, being present, and allowing what is to be. That's what I've learned, just to be kind of gentle.
And in that gentleness, how have you succeeded in being gentle with yourself when you run into blocks or challenges inside of your own practice?
Well, what I've learned over the years, and I think many people will resonate with this, is at those times where we need the practice the most is when the practice is the most difficult to do. And once we know that, we can ease up on ourselves. So I have a few little tricks that I use with myself to be gentle. So one of the things that I've done kind of over the years is, well, you could call it lying to myself, is, I will say, for example, you only need to get on the mat for 10 minutes. Or just take 5 minutes. I did it today, actually. Just today, this morning, I said, okay, get on your mat, just do a 15-minute practice, and then you can go back on the mat later on during the day. And so it kind of eases up. Whereas what I actually want to do today is a full primary series Ashtanga practice. Now, we'll see whether I get on the mat later, but I'm kind of not attached to it in the way that perhaps I was when I was a little younger. I'll be more kind of attached to I need to do that for an hour and a half. Whereas now I'm probably more in the flow and allowing that to happen. And quite honestly, I think when we ease up in that way and when we're less attached, it's actually more likely that we will do what it is that we actually want to do. But we have to be okay if we don't. And we have to kind of find that real balance. Because what we don't want to do is to kind of ease up so much that we end up in kind of procrastination. So we don't want that to happen. We have to find that place where we really know what it is that we want. And so that we can kind of move anywhere, we can really ease up and say, no, today my practice is not happening, and that's okay. And we could also say, I don't really feel like doing my practice today, but I'm going to show up on the mat because I'm going to feel much better as a result of that. So we need to kind of know which is which and kind of be okay with that flow.
That is really beautiful. And it speaks so beautifully to both the concept of being in a purpose-driven life and really accepting what sort of jigsaw puzzle piece one is, but then also accepting the realities of having a body and having some momentum and oftentimes a lot of drag on that body. Can you talk a little bit about how, as your practice has changed, as you've grown into this extraordinary, beautiful form and present moment that we're in, and ways in which you've sort of seen it expand and also maybe shift from how it used to be?
Yeah, that's really, really lovely. One of the things that I've been talking about with my clients and groups that I've been working with during this time is staying expansive in a time of contraction. So just having that awareness of staying open, staying expansive, and kind of really connecting with something greater than us that allows us to be well, regardless of what is going on around us. So that for me is about really staying in that expansive place. Now, when we fall out of that expansive place, because that happens as well, that's the nature of the body, as you say. The body, it has limitations, that's its nature. So when we fall out of that expanded place, we can be okay with that. We can be loving, we can be nurturing, and then we can return, we can come back. And I think for me, that again, that's the magic, is kind of this gap between falling and coming back. We want to nurture ourselves enough so that we really reduce this gap. So if we are loving and nurturing, then we'll find that that gap is kind of less, and we can come back. We can come back into our flow and come back on track kind of much quicker. And it's interesting because as I'm speaking, I'm actually thinking of the words of Thomas Sachs, who actually spoke about the myth of mental illness. Because he saw everything, regardless, everything as a means of coming into greater wholeness. So in terms of what I was seeing as off track, it would be that isn't even off track. That's not really off track. It's part of the track. Because all of it, our highs, our lows, the times where we're feeling stuck, the times where we're completely ecstatic, they're all moving us towards a place of greater wholeness, greater being, and becoming. So all of our human experience is just bringing us into places of greater wholeness.
Yes, what a blessing it is to be here. And what a blessing it has been to talk with you today. For those who want to delve further into your work, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah. Perhaps the easiest for people to remember is Shola. It's SHOLA, shola.co.uk. So that's my website, shola.co.uk. So that will take you to different parts of my work. If you wanted to, their books, programs, all there on the website.
Great. And given what we've talked about, what is one thing that you'd want to leave our listeners with as they go about the rest of their day?
I would like to leave people with kind of 3 words. And they are 3 words that I think allow us to have a kind of joyous experience as we kind of live in this physical body, and as we expand to experience that which is greater. And those 3 words are really simply purpose, passion, and peace. So for me, it's about living on purpose, with passion, in peace.
And may we all live with those 3. Thank you so much, Shola. It has been an absolute honor. Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Mindfulness and Meditation Summit, brought to you by the Shift Network. To learn more, visit mindfulnessmeditationsummit.com. To learn more about our global programs to support you in waking up in all the areas of your life and taking inspired action, visit theshiftnetwork.com. Thank you again for joining us and for sharing these resilience-building practices with your friends and family.